In this lecture, we will go through organized labor markets in India as well as unorganized labor markets in India. Okay.
So what is labor market? Let's see what is labor market. Then we will go through the features of labor market. Okay. See, the labor market, it is also known as the job market. Okay. It relates to the supply and labor demand, in which the supply is provided by the workers and demand by the employers. Okay, see, labor market is well known with the another name. What is the another name? Yes, job market. ओके, बघा, हे जे लेबर मार्केट आहे त्याला दुसरं नाव काय आहे? दुसरं नाव जॉब मार्केट असं आहे. ओके, इट रिलेट्स टू सप्लाय अँड डिमांड ऑफ लेबर. इज इट? बघा, या मार्केटमध्ये काय केलं जातं? सप्लाय अँड डिमांड केलं जातं. इज इट? ऑर्डिनरी बाकीच्या मार्केटसारखंच इज इट, ह्या मार्केटमध्ये सुद्धा सप्लाय अँड डिमांड ह्या दोन गोष्टी कन्सिडर केल्या जातात. पण इज इट, मार्केटच्या पुढे प्रिफिक्स काय आहे? लेबर. ओके, इथे डिमांड अँड सप्लाय कुठल्या गोष्टीची होते? तर लेबरची. इज इट? सो येस, इन विच the supply is provided by the workers and demand by the employers. Okay, see, carefully listen to this. What is labor market? Yes, the labor market is also known as job market. Yes, the labor market, it is also known as job market. Okay, in this labor market or job market, what is done? Yes, in this labor market or job market, yes, demand and supply happens. Okay, the demand and supply, it does happens. Okay, demand and supply of what? Yes, demand and supply of the prefix. Okay, what is the prefix? Labor. Okay, see, in such type of market, the supply and demand, that is demand and supply of labor, it does happens. Okay, now who supplies and who demands, or who demands and who supplies? Is it? See, the labor is demanded by employer, because employer wants to run his organization. He wants to complete the production activity into his organization. So when we consider this, okay, what is needed? Yes, it is needed that he should demand for labor. Is it? Unless until labor is demanded by him, the production activity which he has planned for, it will not be completed. Is it? Getting it? So yes, when we consider demand, demand is put forth by employers. Is it? And who supplies then? Yes, supply is promoted and provided by the workers. Okay, the workers, they do offer labor. Is it? So, once again we will recall the term labor market. Okay, what is labor market? The labor market is also known as job market. The labor market is also known as job market. Okay, so the labor market, is it? It relates to supply and demand. Okay, it relates to supply and demand of what? Yes, it relates to supply and demand of labor. Okay, in which the supply is done by workers and demand is put forth by the employers. Okay, getting it? बघा, लेबर मार्केट ज्याला जॉब मार्केट असं म्हटलं जातं, या मार्केटमध्ये सुद्धा डिमांड अँड सप्लाय इज इट रिलेटेडच ट्रान्झॅक्शन्स होत असतात. ओके, पण इथे डिमांड अँड सप्लाय प्रोडक्टची नाही आहे, तर इथे डिमांड अँड सप्लाय कशाची आहे? येस, जसं की त्या प्रिफिक्समध्ये सांगितलेलं आहे, लेबर मार्केट. इज इट कशाचं मार्केट आहे ते? लेबर मार्केट. म्हणजे डिमांड अँड सप्लाय इज इट कुठल्या गोष्टीची होणार आहे? लेबरची. ओके, म्हणजे त्याच्यामध्ये एक व्यक्ती लेबर देतो, एक व्यक्ती लेबर घेतो. इज इट आता बघा, इट इज क्वाईट क्लिअर. इज इट हे क्वाईट क्लिअर आहे. लेबर कोण देतं आहे? येस, लेबर कोण देऊ शकतं? वर्कर्स. इज इट आणि लेबरची आवश्यकता कोणाला आहे? एम्प्लॉयर्सला. कारण की समजा त्यांनी हे लेबरर्स हायर केले नाहीत आणि त्यांच्या थ्रू समजा लेबर त्याच्या ऑर्गनायझेशनला इज इट त्याच्या फॅक्टरीला मिळाले नाहीत, तर जी प्रोडक्शन ॲक्टिव्हिटी त्याने प्लॅन केलेली आहे इज इट म्हणजे जे प्रोडक्ट प्रोड्यूस करायचं त्याने प्लॅन केलेलं आहे, ती ॲक्टिव्हिटी इज इट अनलेस अंटिल देर इज लेबर इन टू युअर ऑर्गनायझेशन. ओके, जर तुमच्या ऑर्गनायझेशनमध्ये लेबर नसेल, इज इट कामच झालं नाही, तर प्रोडक्शन ॲक्टिव्हिटी कंप्लीट होणार नाही. इज इट गेटिंग इट? सो it is a significant component of any economy and is closely linked to the finance, commodities and services market. Okay, see, when it comes to labor market, yes, it is a significant component of any economy. Yes, labor market is a significant commodity. Okay, it is a significant component of any economy and it is closely linked to the finance, commodities and services market. ओके, जेव्हा आपण या लेबर मार्केटचा विचार करतो, तेव्हा इज इट काय गरजेचं आहे? येस, तर लेबर खूप इम्पॉर्टंट आहे बघा इकॉनॉमिकमध्ये. ओके, ज्याचं लिंक डिरेक्टली फायनान्स, कमोडिटीज आणि सर्व्हिसेस मार्केटशी रिलेट होतो. ओके, ॲट अ मॅक्रो इकॉनॉमिक लेवल, येस, ॲट अ मॅक्रो इकॉनॉमिक लेवल, बोथ डोमेस्टिक अँड इंटरनॅशनल मार्केट डायनेमिक्स अफेक्ट सप्लाय. See, when we consider the domestic as well as international market, okay, the domestic as well as international market, is it what is important here? Yes, it is important that, yes, it is important that, yes, both domestic and international market dynamics affect supply and demand as well as variables such as globalization, population size and level of education. ओके, बघा, आपण जेव्हा डोमेस्टिक लेवलवर ॲज वेल एज इंटरनॅशनल लेवलवर ओके लेबरचा विचार करतो, बरेचसे फॅक्टर्स आहेत जे ह्याच्यावरती अफेक्ट होत असतात. लेबर सप्लायवरती, लेबर डिमांडवरती अफेक्ट होत असतात. कोणकोणते आहेत? येस, ग्लोबलायझेशन असेल, पॉप्युलेशन साईज असेल अँड द लेवल ऑफ एज्युकेशन. सी, सम ऑफ दी कंट्रीज, ओके, दे आर हायली पॉप्युलेटेड. some of the countries, they are, yes, less populated. See, usually the developed countries, okay, what they use? They make use of capital intensive technique. Okay, what they do? Yes, they make use of capital intensive technique. Okay, now due to this what happens? Yes, due to this, surely, okay, due to this what happens? Surely some of the countries who are highly populated, they rely on labor intensive technique, and some of the countries who are less populated, yes, they rely on capital intensive technique. So as per the techniques which are used by the companies as well as the countries, okay, the supply and demand of labor, it does varies. Okay, then different companies deal with workers on a microeconomic level, recruiting them, dismissing them, and increasing or cutting pay and hours. As it say, different companies, they deal with workers on a microeconomic level. That is, okay, when we think about companies, okay, that is, when we think about companies, yes, what do company do? Yes, companies, they do deal with workers on a microeconomic level, means, okay, they do recruit laborers, they do dismiss laborers, is it, they increase or they do cutting pay and hours.
Organized labor market in India and unorganized labor market in India. See, organized and unorganized. Okay, what is the difference between this? Why it is important? Uh, which which type is most important in Indian context? Okay, so let's see what is it. See, the industrial growth up to 1991 was mostly based on the socialistic pattern of society. Okay, Indian economic system had been based on the mixed economic pattern. Therefore, the public sector played a dominant role. Government used to announce its licensing policy from time to time and used to issue the licenses for the establishment of new industrial units and for the expansion and diversification of existing units. Government also issued technological policy and industrial policies from time to time. The objective of these policies had been employment creation. Thus, employment generation was the main object of the government both in public as well as private organized sector. So, organized labor markets thus oriented towards creation of more employment opportunities to the growing population. Further, organized labor market consists of public employment exchanges. These exchanges are concerned or concentrated on providing employment opportunity to the local people for certain categories of jobs in both public as well as private sector. Okay, see, organized labor markets include employment in public sector manufacturing organization, the public sector, service organizations like commercial banks and insurance companies, and private sector service organizations like banks, tourism organizations, finance companies, etc. Organized labor markets are standardized. They operate mostly on systematic lines. Demand for labor in this sector is balanced with the supply of the same through the efforts of employment exchanges, consultants, advertisement by the individual organizations, trade unions, etc. Organizations in this market employ the candidates through the formal selection procedure. Organizations in this market train and develop the employees through their efforts. They pay the wages, salaries to the employees based on the job evaluation and their ability to pay. Trade unions in these organizations are strong. They regulate the HRM practices in these organizations. Okay. See, when we come across organized labor markets, what are organized labor markets? Okay, बघा, आपण जेव्हा ऑर्गनाइज लेबर मार्केट्स याचा विचार करतो तर ऑर्गनाइज लेबर मार्केटमध्ये नेमकं काय येतं बघा. 1991पर्यंत इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ जी होती ती सोशलिस्टिक पॅटर्न ऑफ सोसायटी याच्यावरती बेस्ड होती. इंडियन इकॉनॉमिक सिस्टीमचा जेव्हा आपण विचार करतो, येस इट इज मिक्स्ड इकॉनॉमिक पॅटर्न. देअरफोर ओके पब्लिक सेक्टर जे आहे इज इट त्याचं डॉमिनंट रोल आणि रूल होता पूर्ण मार्केटवरती. ओके एस्पेशली जॉब मार्केट. ओके गव्हर्मेंट यूज टू अनाउन्स its licensing policy from time to time and used to issue the licenses for the establishment of new industrial units and for the expansion and diversification of existing units. So, when we consider organized labor market, what is organized labor market? Yes, when we come across the public sector, is it? See, prior to 1991, the public sector, it was having a great importance into the job market. Okay, job marketचा जेव्हा आपण विचार करतो तेव्हा येस पब्लिक सेक्टरला तेवढं महत्त्व होतं. ओके and once after 1991 privatization and other things they entered into our market. Yes, new industries or new industrial units they were established. Okay, then as previously there was licensing policy. Okay, after that, yes, new industrial units, okay, were laid down. Government, yes, government also issued technological policy and industrial policies. From time to time, the objective of these policies had been employment creation. Okay, बघा बरीचशी पॉलिसीज इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसीज टेक्नॉलॉजिकल पॉलिसीज गव्हर्नमेंटने इश्यू केली. ओके वेळोवेळी. ओके ह्या सर्व पॉलिसीजचा ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह किंवा उद्देश काय होता की जास्तीत जास्त एम्प्लॉयमेंट क्रिएट करणे किंवा एम्प्लॉयमेंट क्रिएशन इज इट. दस एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन वॉज द मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह ऑफ द गव्हर्मेंट. ओके एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन करणं हाच मेन उद्दिष्ट हेच मेन उद्दिष्ट होतं कोणाचं गव्हर्मेंटचं. ओके आणि यामध्ये दोन्ही पब्लिक ॲज वेल ॲज प्रायव्हेट companies, okay, public as well as private companies they were considered. Okay, see, so government what government did, yes, the main objective of government was to generate employment in both public as well as private organized sector. Okay, organized labor markets thus they were orienting on employment opportunities, okay, for the growing population. Organized labor market, yes, it does consist of public employment exchanges. Is it? We are aware about public employment exchanges. What they do? Yes, they generate or they inform or they provide employment opportunities to local people both in public as well as private sectors. Okay, then when we consider organized labor markets, okay, see employment in the public sector manufacturing organizations, the public sector service organization like commercial banks and insurance companies, and private sector service organization like banks, tourism, etc. Okay, organized labor markets, they are standardized in nature. Okay, they operate mostly on systematic lines. Demand for labor in this sector is balanced with the supply of the same through the efforts of employment exchanges. Okay, what they do? Okay, organizations in this market train and develop the employees through their efforts. They pay the wages, salaries to the employees based on job evaluation and their ability to pay. Trade unions in these organizations are strong. They regulate the HRM practices in these organizations. Okay, organization in this market employ the candidates through formal selection procedure. Okay, through formal selection procedure. Unorganized labor markets, the component organization in unorganized labor market include small industries, tiny industrial units, cottage industries, shops and establishments, hotels, restaurants, some mobile businesses, trading units, taxi operators, agriculture, etc. Demand for and supply of labor in this market is mostly balanced through casual labor and contract labor. These practices are more prevalent in third world countries. Organizations in this market do not follow any systematic or scientific methods of recruitment and selection. Candidates are mostly employed if they accept the low wages. Sometimes the candidate skill or knowledge is the basis for being employed. Organizations in this labor market normally do not design the jobs, do not plan for manpower. They do not undertake any measures to train or develop the employees. Performance appraisal through formal means never take place in the organization. Employees are normally offered minimum wages as announced by the government. Some organizations avoid paying even the minimum wages. Normally, the organizations do not provide employee benefit, welfare measures, fringe benefits, etc. Most of the organizations, they do not have trade unions. Okay, and when we consider trade unions, they are normally weak even in those organizations wherever they exist. So, employee grievances, industrial conflict, etc. are rare to find in this sector, as the employees have to accept the wages offered by the employer. Further, employees have to accept the terms and conditions proposed by the employer. In fact, the financial positions of most of the organizations is weak and it is too small to offer better wages, to offer better terms and conditions of employment, and to provide employee benefits. Okay, when we consider, yes, the organized labor market in India, okay, what is most important? Yes, usually the labor market in India, it is mostly unorganized type labor market. The major characteristic of unorganized workers, they are the organized labor is overwhelming in terms of its number range, and therefore they are omnipresent throughout India. Okay, see, when we consider the unorganized labor, okay, it is overwhelming in terms of its number, range, and therefore they are present everywhere throughout India. Okay, as the unorganized sector suffers from cycles of excessive seasonality of employment, majority of unorganized workers do not have stable deliverable avenues of employment. Even those who appear to be visibly employed are not gainfully and substantially employed. Yes, indicating the existence of disguised unemployment. The workplace is scattered and fragmented. There is no formal employer employee relationship. In rural areas, the organized labor force is highly stratified on caste and community consideration. In urban areas, while such considerations are much less, it cannot be said that it is altogether absent, as the bulk of the unorganized workers in urban areas are basically migrant workers from rural areas. Okay, workers in the unorganized sector are usually subject to indebtedness and bondage, as their major income cannot be met with their livelihood needs. The unorganized workers are subject to exploitation significantly by the rest of the society. They receive poor working conditions, especially wages much below than in formal sector. Even for closely comparable jobs, that is where labor productivity are no different. Okay, the work status is of inferior quality of work and inferior terms of employment, both remuneration and employment. Okay, primitive production technologies and feudal production relations are rampant in the unorganized sector, and they do not permit or encourage the workmen to imbibe and assimilate higher technologies and better production relations. Large scale ignorance and illiteracy and limited exposure to the outside world are also responsible for such poor absorption. The unorganized worker do not receive sufficient attention from the trade unions. Inadequate and insufficient labor laws and standards relating to unorganized sectors. Okay. Social security measures, okay, they are absent into unorganized workers or this sector. Okay. See, when we consider unorganized sector, okay, workers in or unorganized sector are usually subject to indebtedness and bondage. Set. See, these people, these unorganized workers, yes, what they do is, yes, they receive poor working conditions, okay, especially wages much below that in the formal sector. Even for closely comparable jobs, that is where labor productivity are no different. Okay, the work status is of the inferior quality of work. Okay, the terms of employment, they are not defined. बघा, जेव्हा आपण अनऑर्गनाइज सेक्टरचा विचार करतो, अनऑर्गनाइज सेक्टर म्हणजे नेमकं काय? येस, अनऑर्गनाइज सेक्टर म्हणजे ओके जिथे येस वर्क स्टेटस इन्फिरियर क्वालिटीचं असतं, रेम्युनरेशनसुद्धा योग्य नसतं, एम्प्लॉयमेंट कंडिशन व्यवस्थित नसतात, टर्म्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट व्यवस्थित नसतात. ओके, ओके, हे जे अनऑर्गनाइज वर्कर्स असतात ते ट्रेड युनियनशी रिलेटेड नसतात किंवा त्यांचे जे ट्रेड युनियन्स असतात ते तेवढे स्ट्रॉंग नसतात. त्यांना कुठल्याही सोशल सिक्युरिटी मेजर्स ऑफर केले जात नाहीत. अशा प्रकारच्या वर्कर्सला अनऑर्गनाइज वर्कर्स असं म्हटलं जातं. ओके, त्यांच्यासाठी येस फक्त दे आर पेड विथ वेजेस ॲक्च्युली अँड दे डोंट गेट एनी वर्किंग कंडिशन्स मीन्स गुड वर्किंग कंडिशन्स. ओके, द वर्किंग कंडिशन्स which are given to them, they are poor working conditions. Okay, getting it?